Every new artist has been here. You just got introduced to anime, you're hyped, you grab a pencil, and bam! You try to draw a face. But it just doesn't look right. The eyes are weird, the proportions are off, and somehow, the more you erase, the worse it gets. I've been there too, but don't worry, I got you. I'm White Manga, published author of Apple Black, writer and illustrator, published worldwide, translated, all that good stuff, multiple manga volumes. And today, I'm breaking down how to draw faces in any art style. Whether you love anime, semi-realism, cartoons, by the end of this tutorial, you'll be able to draw both male and female faces using models that I've totally come up with that don't necessarily have anime out there, but these are just models that I've created because I'm such a genius. Off the dome. Let go. Let's begin with the infamous circle before we actually draw the character. The key thing to remember always is simple shapes and positionings of things. After the circle, we split it into 4 parts, and over time, you'll see how the lines connect with each other just to let us know where things go. And depending on your style, certain parts of the positioning might change. Some of the shapes might be slightly smaller or bigger. It's ultimately up to you. But for this, let's go with a default, typical male lead you would find in a series. A little bit of my style, but at the same time, you'll see how this could be implemented into whatever style you want. Now on the sides, they could come straight down, but I want them to curve in a little bit more, as it's going to make the character seem a little younger and less defined or less muscular. Then 2 other lines on each side, forming that jaw. Here, depending on your style, you could have the jaw be completely sharp like a knife, or you can have it soft and then do a little curl right at the end. Extend the line in dashes, and in the middle of each side, you can form the neck. If the character was more muscular, they'll have a thicker neck, as you can see. So feel free to experiment as we run along. Extend the cranium at the top. In some cases, that may be necessary. And then you have simple ovular shapes to form the ears. Keep track of the top where the ears begin, which is right at the horizontal split of the initial circle, and then the ear at the bottom ends at the end of that initial circle. We form another horizontal line slightly below the first horizontal line, also where the nose will begin. We have a triangle there, just so we know the position. Circular shapes for the eyes. In my character design videos, I talk a little bit more about shape language and what it means for a circular eye or a triangular eye that you will find in Dragon Ball, or a square. These are usually indicators of the personality that the character has, but it doesn't matter too much here because, again, I'm just using these shapes to let me know where things go. These are essentially training wheels, because in the future, at some point, you should be able to draw faces without any of these guidelines, depending on how many faces you've drawn. Make sure the eyes are not too close to each other, because then it might look weird, unless you're going for a Family Guy, Simpsons type deal. So it's not like you can't do it, but essentially just teaching you guys the rules before you get to break them. Now the mouth, we can just have a line to let us know where it's going to be. How high or how low, how close to the nose it's going to be will be up to you. Different artists have different approaches to this. Simple shapes for where the eyebrows are going to be placed and positioned. And then for the most part, we've done it. For the female guidelines, it's going to be essentially the same thing. But to make it more typical, you will notice that the jaw is much sharper. The ears in some cases could be smaller, and the neck is thinner. In some cases, the eyes could be bigger, so you have the shape be a little bigger. You just maintain somewhat of a delicate touch when putting this together. Outside of that, it's pretty much the same thing. And you could have a masculine looking woman and literally draw the same thing if that's what you want to do. It's a free country. Almost all that's done. Now we get to the fun stuff in adding the details. Now putting in the shape for the eye. Again, depending on your style, it could be whatever you want, depending on your character. It depends on a couple of factors. But for the style, we're going to be going with something a little bit more convenient for me, similar to my style and my approach to things. We're going to have the eye be somewhat a combination of a box and a triangle with a rhombus. But then you find ways to make the line a little bit more organic. You don't want it to look like a literal rhombus, unless your style is a very triangular, sharp-lined style. Obviously, style is not just the way you draw faces, it's literally the way you do absolutely everything with regards to your art. But in this case, we're talking within the context of drawing faces or characters. Then we draw the other eye. One side is a little bit too close. You want to make sure that it's symmetrical, so I have one eye a little close to the ear than the other. But eventually you'll see as we adjust. I'm not too worried about it right now. For the noses, also depends on your style. It could be a simple triangle like so, and maybe one part would be shaded, depending on the light source. This is assuming the light source is coming from the right. Or it could just be a straight line down the middle, another straight line but much shorter, another triangle or softer edged triangle. You see this a lot in stuff like Soul Eater, but maybe it's higher. Again, it's all down to shape and positioning. Don't be afraid. Do this often and you will build confidence. I like to start with a line going across one eye and then forming the bridge of the nose, especially if that light source is still coming from the right. If it was coming from the left, then I'll do it on the other side. And then 2 dashes for the nostril. In some cases, you can add another shape forming a shadow that the nose is casting downwards. I recommend you study a bunch of artists to see how they draw noses, because a lot of people draw noses very differently. Some people just skip noses altogether. Some noses are circular, some noses are just, I don't know, it's all over the place. But this is what I like to do. I have the dashes for the nostril, and then I have a line almost attempting to draw a line for the shadow that the nose would cast underneath, but then I don't. It's almost like I'm drawing it, but then I change my mind, and I do it for each nostril. Then for the mouth, it could be that high, it could be that low, or it could be right there where we had it in the guidelines. I do tend to make my lines a little bit more delicate for the mouth and give it somewhat of a curve on each half of the face. Almost like a spread out M with like a widow's peak in the middle. Sometimes it's subtle, sometimes it's not, depending on the character or what I'm going for. And then in some cases you can have little dash lines to indicate the lower lip or another one for the upper lip. And then figure out the eyebrows. Again, you have a lot of freedom here. I tend to have eyebrows with 2 lines and I treat it like an umbrella for the eye. 1 dash and then another dash. If you draw a straight line from where the eye starts that's closest to the nose, I try to make sure the eyebrow begins a little above that, really covering all of it like an umbrella. Again, this is standard. There's going to be cases where it doesn't do that. There are cases where it's not going to even have an eyebrow. Think Kenpachi from Bleach. That is how much freedom you have. Sometimes no eyebrow, hiding the expression of the character, building a little bit more mystery for the character. Whatever your reasoning is, as long as you can justify your decisions, you should be good. And once I do that, I mirror it for the other eye. Here we just have little thin lines, slightly thickened here and there, usually thicker the closer it is to the nose. That stroke is usually thicker than the stroke bending away from the nose. You can have all kinds of shapes for the eyebrows. Something rectangular throughout could work. It depends on the character, obviously. Now for the ears, this could also be tricky. There are many ways to do it. You could follow almost like an observational tutorial where you just follow my lines and see exactly what I do. A little line there. A bigger line, notice all the curves and where it then bends into. And you could also use other facial features to know when to do some of the bends. Then I have this curve, almost like a opposite alphabet C. And then from there, somewhere in the middle, the line pops out, doing another one, another alphabet C, but maybe the lines don't all connect. Another dash right there, and then I connect it all. You could also use your actual ear for reference. And over time, you're building your own style from scratch without maybe referencing any artists that are out there. You're referencing life. A lot of times that is the best way to start, understanding the true rules before you break them. Subtle lines for shading, little quick dashes and strokes. For the eyes, the upper part of the eyes usually would have the thicker lashes. These are just to show lashes, right? How thick you have the lines for the eyes indicate the lashes of the eyes. And usually it's thicker at the top. You could have it sharp on the end, further away, closest to the ear. I like to have 2 lines at the bottom, or at least another line beginning and then stopping midway to show where the lower lashes will pop out of. You can have lines at the top for the eyelids, 2 dashes as well. And depending on how open the eye is, that would indicate how much of the iris and the pupil we get to see. You can have a lazy Sanpaku eye type thing where we see half of the pupil and then half of the iris. And the more open the eye is, the more eye we get to see. I will be recreating my how to draw eyes video and we'll go into more detail with that. Here, many more styles you could do. You can have little dashes on the iris. You can fill some parts of the iris with black. You can have little quick dash lines on the eyebrows to indicate the hair strands on the eyebrows. Try to be uniform on both eyes. The only thing you're not going to be uniform on both eyes with will be the shine in the eyes, as we will see in time. And sometimes feel free to take a step back and make some adjustments where necessary. I thought the eyes were a little bit too wide, so I tweaked that. Drew the neck. A little dash for the Adam's apple, but nothing too crazy. And now we can go in with the hair. I might have a separate video again for hair. Again, we will be revamping a bunch of the videos that we had on the channel, so feel free to leave in the comments the ones that you definitely want to see again, or at least an updated version for 2025. But essentially, we're drawing lines with the direction of where the hair strands are going to be, where they're going to be popping out of. The hair will also be a layer above where the scalp ends, for obvious reasons. And now we can go into the female head. Same deal here, but I'm going to try and make the eyes a little bit more circular, doing something different here. We'll have even thicker lashes, so the lines for the upper lashes, the lines for the upper part of the eyes will be even more thicker, with lines to indicate the lashes and makes them look a little bit more feminine. You can have this for the guys, just feminine, not necessarily for female or male, but that's the effect it tends to have on characters, especially with this style. You can have some of those lower lashes as well, and little dashes to indicate more longer lashes, long, luscious locks. Well, not locks, but lashes. Again, uniform on both ends. I'm more delicate with all the lines now. The softer you make the character look, the more feminine they tend to look in this style. Bigger eyes also do the same thing, while at the same time maybe making the characters seem younger than they actually are. Some experimentation with the eyebrows this time. They're a lot more circular and we don't see the whole thing. We're just covering the top. So when I do eyebrows that doesn't cover everything, I tend to leave at least the parts that are closer to the nose. But again, it's up to you. You can do something weird. Have fun. And then on the eyebrows, I have quick lines to show those hair strands in those eyebrows. The line for the lower lip, I pulled it down a little bit. It makes the lower lip look bigger, more fuller lips. That might be what you're going for, and in this case, that is. You can even change the shape of the head at this point where necessary. It all depends on your style. Sometimes you want the cheeks part, like the face cheeks, to be a little bit more plump, just a little bit. Really up to you. Again, shapes and positioning. Then I put the neck, and then I don't do the line for the Adam's apple thing, because for obvious reasons, but it's really up to you still. There's still some lines in there. Doesn't necessarily mean Adam's apple. It could just be some of the veins or whatever in the neck. It's up to you. And then I put in the hair. Feel free to have some parts be covered with the hair. We don't always get to see everything. So in some cases, you can see the hair is going to be covering the other ear, the ear on the right. It depends on the art style. And you can see the light shining in the eyes. They're both on the same side. You don't have that be symmetrical. We have it on the lower right for both eyes. Lines for the hair strands, you put more hair strand lines, almost like you're shading. Make adjustments to do it for both characters, and you made it. Now to show you we could do this for literally any character, I'm going to be coming up with a character from scratch that I've never seen before. Totally looks like they would have their own anime, but because I'm so much of a genius, I think this is going to end well. Putting in the jaw, the ears with a completely new style. Again, your ears don't have to be that detailed. They can be simplified. Now I'm putting eyes for the male that are a little bit more round, but still have a squarish shape. Squares are usually for characters that are reliable to some degree, but the circular nature would hint at the character being a little bit more endearing at the same time. Having a unique dash for the nose, the thickness on the upper part of the eyes, for the lashes, lines for the eyelids as well. You know, he seems like someone who maybe believes in aliens or ghosts. It depends. I'm still thinking about it. The bigger jaw and the smaller mouth don't necessarily work, so maybe you can pull that back. Again, it's all about the positioning. It's about the positioning and the shapes. So bringing that jaw upwards a little bit, almost like I'm giving him a facelift, like a doctor. I'm cooking at work, you know, it makes him seem younger. So maybe he's a student in a high school or whatever. We have the same approach for the eyes, but this time I'm gonna give the eyes a little bit of a shine on the bottom left and the top right. You can do that multiple times. You have that much freedom. And then once I'm done, I can put in the hair. You know, gotta make him look kind of cool, you know, the little bit of a messy hairstyle. You know, the last guy was pretty neat. Let's go messy. And then you can add accessories. Let's give him some glasses. Like, I could totally see this person with his own anime. Totally. Leave in the comments what you would call this character. I don't know yet. I have some ideas, but I don't want to spoil it. You know, I don't want anybody to like steal my idea or anything like that. And let's fill it in black for like black hair. And I think we're cooking. Now we'll go into The female character will do something similar, change the shape of the head a little bit. The eyes, somewhat similar again. Quick nose, make her smile a little bit. Upper lashes as well. I think we're cooking here. Now we have, like we discussed, the lines that dash away from the lashes just to show longer lashes, making them look a little bit more feminine. We shade the eyes with the same style, almost like they're in the same universe, right? So maybe one of them believes in ghosts and the other one believes in aliens. I'll figure that part out. You know, I have this idea where it would be really cool for this weird, action-packed, trippy anime. I don't know what to call it. Y'all can leave ideas on what we would name this character as well. And we can give more jewelry, accessories. You know, girls like the jewelry, so give her some earrings and a little bit of clothing, maybe a ribbon. I'm coming up with this. Like, that's how good I am. You know what I'm saying? And then for the hair, you know how anime hair be doing? You can just do whatever as long as it's like memorable. Look at Yu-Gi-Oh! You know, Yu-Gi-Oh! Did some crazy hairstyles and he got away with it. So this is tame. This is tame compared to Yu-Gi-Oh! You can have some of the hair cover the ears. That's what tends to happen. It depends on how she styles it. And then we shade. Sometimes even the way you shade plays a role in your style. So maybe we'll have a shading video in the future with other characters that I totally came up with in this video, you know, or in that video when the time comes, because I'm that good. I'm that good. You guys are in the right place. I just cooked just now. You've never seen this. Not subscribing is a disservice to you. I see you liking the video, but not hitting the like button and not being subscribed, not hitting the notifications. You loving the video, but not showing love. Shame. Holy Ghost, smash the subscribe button or I would place you in my Tsukuyomi. Do all the fun engagement stuff if you want to support the YouTube channel. Leave comments on what the next tutorial will be. Shout out to everyone who's gotten the book. Watch more videos. It's White Manga, and I'm Audi 9000.